In this episode, let us discover how some things can totally be sometimes difficult for us at first, but will be able to prepare us in the future. Let us discover how she is being saved by just listing her name down in that sheet of paper and created an impact up until now. So for everyone, you know me as the person behind Bits and Pieces, Ginagmay of Dinagpo podcast. This is Yvonne, and I am lucky to have this person as a guest for this episode. And we will be talking about the topic of creating an impact. First, I will be introducing myself, which is very short. I've already had my introduction. I already introduced my name, and I also would like to have a short introduction of the person that I'll be talking to with regards to this episode, to the whole episode for this one. So Steph and I know her from Instagram, and it's a funny story because I just posted I tried posting some of the reviews I've had for movies, and I bumped into Steph, which is like for me the reason why I was able to talk to her, because you know for a fact that the person is quite is genuine, and it's and someone that is very welcoming. So I asked her like what are the things she did. Like she said she's doing movie reviews and all those things, and I'm like, yeah, I'd be open if there are anything. Like she said there are discussions about movies that she's doing, and I'm like, oh, I'm not sure, I might be nervous if I'll be doing that. But um everything happens because, as far as I know, Steph is someone that I was able to talk to that is very genuine of what her intentions are, and she's really upfront that this is what she wanted to do. I don't have to get nervous and all those things. So that's how our how I was introduced to her. And for now, I'll be turning the microphone to her. She will be introducing herself, and I cannot wait what are the things that she will be sharing to us also with this entire episode. So it's your turn now, Steph.
Well, thank you. Well, overall, my name is Stephanie. I'm 24 years old and I'm from Montreal, Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And I we know each other through Instagram just because I've
Uh-huh.
been doing reviews about movies,
Mm-mm.
TV shows, and books. I've always been really passionate about all of these three things, so that's why I
Mm.
decided to start this platform, this space where I could speak freely about my opinions about film, but also encourage other people to talk about movies and TV shows and books and all that stuff, just all the
Mm-mm.
entertainment, so that we can have a realm of acceptance and love and can speak freely about things
Mm-hmm.
that we enjoy in life.
That's true. So yeah, that's a short introduction, and I guess there's also one thing that Steph. I actually, this is one thing that I also appreciate, and I was quite shocked when I found out on your personal bio, because I was just like, for Instagram there are suggestions that I will be you will be bumping in every now and then if you are friends with this person, like something that is a mutual friend of yours and all those things. And I was able to search Stephanie, the same name that you had, and I was like, oh, this is Steph. So
Yes.
I browsed it and I was like, what? She's this, she's that, but she's not telling me this. So that's why I told you, oh my god, I got so nervous also. Like the minute before you said we will be having our live discussion, I was like, what? I told my husband, you know what? She's this, she's that, but she's not telling me. So that's the reason why I'm like, I wanted to invite her in the podcast. My husband, really? She's not telling you this? I was like, yeah, me too. I was surprised. But
Well, I
that's
guess I
why.
have a second identity. So it's not something I tell to everyone that I do
uh,
pageants as well. And I was
uh-huh.
Miss Teen Quebec in 2016, and I've competed in pageants for the past almost 10 years now that I've been doing pageants. So, and currently I'm Miss Galaxy Montreal,
Whee!
so that's fun. And I'll compete. I'm going to compete in October for Miss Galaxy Canada and all that stuff.
Oh.
So it is kind of a secret identity. I guess it's probably because in Canada it's lesser known and lesser talked. It's not really talked about a lot in pageantry in general in Canada. So it's not
Mm,
something that is always seen well. And I guess we're going to talk more about that in
mm,
this podcast. But it's not something that is always accepted. So I put on in my bio, and not everyone knows about that. I mean, it's
mm.
definitely not something that I talk usually with my coworkers, for example. So It's obviously not something that I bring right up front to someone when I get to
Mm,
know them, because a lot of people judge or have a bad opinion about pageantry in general.
seriously. Well,
Mhm.
it's quite different here in Philippines, Steph. As you know, like everyone is so crazy about pageant, and we're actually talking about this when we had our first meeting. Like I told you that, like I think that was 2 weeks ago. I
Yeah.
was so shocked. My social media is blowing. I slept early. So when I woke up, all my friends, my gay friends are telling me, why were you not giving comments about the pageant? I was like, huh, what happened? Then some of these people are actually sending me like personal messages, and were like, you should be giving comments about the question and answer portion. I was like, I didn't really see it live, so that's the reason why. So I that's that's also one thing that is different from us. There in Canada, it's quite like not a big deal, but in Philippines, like everyone was really like needed to pause your time in order to watch any pageant, especially if it's something that is major. Like normally, we call it as Miss Universe Philippines because the
Mhm.
winner for that will be the one that will be brought onto the Miss to represent Philippines or the Miss Universe pageant. So that's actually the major one that I missed, but that's okay because I understand other peoples are also crazy about it, but it's quite cute that it's different there.
Yeah, it is. It's truly different. I mean, when I first started pageantry, it was a little bit like my parents were like, "No, you shouldn't do that. It's
Mm,
only like for models and stuff like that. Like,
mm,
you don't fit the brand because, I'm not a size 2 girl. I'm a size 8, size 10 woman, and I'm very proud of my body and who I am and what I
yeah.
look like. And so it doesn't really fit the mold, but in Canada,
Mm,
it's very different. That ideology of size and pageants are very much more accepting here, at least, of bodies and different kinds of women, other races, and they're very open-minded
mm,
about it. I guess it's because of
mm,
the diversity of the people in this country as well.
mm,
But it's still something that has a negative connotation to it, because a lot of people think that it's only about beauty and it's only about having this like impossible standard of looking the best, but it isn't like that as much anymore. I think it's much more about personality and much more about being an empowered woman, being and making an impact in your community, and being a strong woman and just being with
mm,
that really great, amazing community of women that just all want to do the same thing. So it definitely is different, but it's interesting to see how like it's not really well seen like at the workplace.
mm.
It's not something that I'm going to talk about with my coworkers like, oh yeah, I do pageants. It's something that they're going to be like, oh, that's strange, why do you do that? They're not going to understand it really well.
Oh,
Yeah, it's something that
seriously?
it's something that is not really well talked about, because people think that it's someone that is shallow or that is not well educated or that is more like a Barbie
Oh,
kind of woman that are going to participate at these
really?
things. But it's not that anymore. It's really not that. It's the negative idea, or they're thinking
Mm,
about maybe Honey Boo Boo, like the little children that get
mm.
dressed by
Yes,
their
yes, yes,
parents
yes.
to
Yeah,
do
they
these
were forced, like
yeah,
really
to
at some
be
point they were
forced to do
forced.
those things. So I
Yeah.
think there's been so much bad press about pageantry over the
Ah,
past, like, I don't know, 20 years, that people have a very negative view about it, at least in Canada. I don't know so much about in the United States, but at least in Canada, it's still like that. And people think of it as like a
mm,
shallow kind of system, a shallow kind of place. But it's really not like that, especially in Canada. It's women that are very, very invested in their communities. It's some of
mm,
the best people I've ever met. I've never interacted with any cattiness or any mean comments with women in the
mm.
pattern community. It's honestly such a great place to be in.
Wow, wow. That's a very great thing and interesting to know about
Yeah.
the concept when it comes to pageantry in Canada compared to the Philippines. Because to be honest, if you're here in Philippines, Steph, whatever it is that you're doing, people will be running after you, especially that they know that you are from the pageant industry. So that's the reason why I was jumpy when I know, like,
You don't have to be.
what?
Oh no, you don't really don't have to be. I'm just like a girl next door. I'm just a girl like anyone else.
No matter it is that you told me, like it's not about beauty, it's not about size, like everything, I reckon if you were joining the pageant you will still be able to win. Like you see in the people how genuine it is. Like the first conversation that we had, I already told my husband I was quite scared. Like I told him, like basically I was quite scared and nervous. But then eventually, right through our conversation, you really feel the genuine spirit that you have, then that's the reason why I was at ease. Like really, that's something that also that I have observed with some of the other guests that I've had. Like you have to filter on when it comes to doing podcast. You have to filter on your guest as well. So like me myself, I'm the one doing the filter, and my husband is very good in doing background check. He's probably like an FBI. I don't know about how he do investigation, and he was telling me that this person is this person is that. But at first when we had our conversation, that was me who was finding it out, and I told him, can you check on something? Should I be scared? Like all those things I
Oh
told him
no.
about it. so so that's also quite funny. But then eventually, like, for for the person, if it's something like coming from a genuine spirit, like from a genuine approach, like there's nothing wrong. Like doesn't matter anymore what the person is, as long as everything runs freely and smoothly, as so long as the conversation gets to be genuine as well. So
Mhm.
that's that's not a problem anymore. So I guess, as what I have mentioned to you in this episode, mostly I'll be doing like factor things. I like factor. Like, so I'll be asking three major questions to you, Steph, and then after which um we'll be jumping onto the portion which I call as a fast talk. Like really,
Mhm.
I'm just getting some comments and also questions coming from the people that are listeners, or also my previous guests as well, who are also asking questions about this conversation or about this topic that I'll be bringing in for you to discuss, or for us to, if you agree or disagree, and then you provide me your 2 to 3 minutes reason why you agree or disagree with this. Like mostly this is actually trivial or a stereotype. Like they wanted us to answer if it's a yes or no, or agree or disagree. So
Perfect.
that's pretty simple for you. So
Works
yep.
great.
Yeah, so I'll just start on with the first question that I have for you. So um my first question is that, do you always feel that you always wanted to have this kind of platform, and then like really, was it really your purpose, or there is a turning point in your life that made you decide that this is what I'm going to do?
Mhm.
I wanted to represent women, like I wanted to be this empowered woman, to be someone that the people will be looking up to in the future. Or is there something in your life, like really you wanted to share, you're open to
Mhm.
share, that made you realize that this is something I wanted to do?
Yeah, I think we need to go all the way back in my past to talk a little bit more about that. But for 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 a time in my life, I wasn't very happy. Between
Aw.
14 to 16 years old, I had a lot of difficulty with finding myself. I didn't
Mm,
know what I wanted to do with my life, like a lot of teenagers. I didn't know
mm,
what I wanted, and I was very confused about who I wanted to be. And there was a time where I didn't want to be part of this world anymore. There was a time where
oh my god.
I just didn't see any future for myself, and that was very difficult to go through. And
Mm,
so I was very lucky to have excellent friends at the time, and they helped me get help. So they helped me see a therapist at the school, and I was
mm,
finally able to see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. And little by little, I started working with my therapist, and she
mhm,
suggested to me that I should try something new, something that is different in my life.
mhm,
And so that same day, there was a conference at school with someone from Miss Quebec that talked about the experience and talked about how
mhm.
it was really life changing for that person. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to sign up. I'm going to sign up. It's going to be a fun
Mm,
experience. It's going to be wearing dresses and
mhm,
trying to be someone that is bubbly and fun and all that stuff.
mm.
Like it was just, I was seeing some light through that activity, and there were so many different advantages to that pageant. It was first of all just a personality pageant, so there was no swimsuit component at all, and there was
Mhm.
many activities that were included, such as like team bonding activities and like
Mm.
learning how to speak correctly and learning how to speak in
Ah,
front of
alright.
people and
Mhm.
posture and all those kinds of classes that I didn't think would that I thought that would be fun to learn. So
Mm.
I signed up, and uh, I would have never believed that this would have been the experience that changed my life. But I started
Mm.
to learn about myself and see what it was I really interested in. I started seeing how I really liked cheerleading, for example. It was at that time in
Nice.
my life that I started cheerleading, and I started to realize that being part of a team is so important to make you feel like you have
Mm.
purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And through that, I started gaining more confidence at the same time as doing this pageant and doing all the activities that were linked to it. And how the Miss Quebec pageant works is that there's like 3 rounds, and that happen throughout a whole year. So every
Mm.
round there's some people that get eliminated, and
Ah.
there was about 150 people in my category, and that was for Miss Teen Quebec. That was when I was 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And so, little by little, I was getting through every elimination process, and I was gaining more
Wow.
confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up being in the top 12, and it was already such a shock for me at that time.
Wow.
I couldn't believe that I made it to that point because I had started this at such a low point, and
Mm.
I then started cheerleading. I then started reading much more. I started watching movies more and knowing that perhaps that's something I wanted to do in my life. And
Mm.
then I started just finding myself throughout this 1 year. And I ended up winning that pageant, Miss Teen Quebec
Wow.
2016. And I truly believe that somehow pageantry saved my life. And it
Oh my
really
God.
did. It really did bring me to being wanting to be a better version of myself. It brought me to understanding like through all these other women that were very inspiring to me at the time. Like
Mm.
it just brought me so much confidence, and it made me see like those role models. That's who I
Mm.
want to
Mm.
be, and I know I can
Mm.
get there. I know I can do it. And
Mm.
winning was really like a life-changing moment. It's not something that I ever expected. If you see my face when I won, I was sure it was going to be this other contestant that was against me. I was like,
Mm.
"Oh, she's so good. I'm sure it's going to be her." And when they called my name, I I was so shocked. Like my face is like 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 if you see the video, I'm totally shocked. I would have never
Wow.
thought that it would have been me because I had started from such a low point and
Mm.
having so much progress through that whole year. It was so instrumental in my life, and from then on, it changed. Like my life changed. I was a turning point that it was like, you know what? I'm gonna do what I want to do with my life. I'm not gonna do what my parents tell me with like being an engineer or whatever just to make money. Like I'm gonna do something that I'm passionate about because it's what brings light and fire into my life. It's what makes me like feel alive and want to
Mm.
be alive. So that's why I decided later on to study film, to study my passion, to do what I'm doing right now, and to right now being a critique and doing my own reviews online and having
Mm.
a bunch of fun with that.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I can also relate a bit to this one, Steph. But
Mhm,
normally, for my case, is that here in Philippines, it's one thing that is different because it's like we know that what is the path that we wanted to, and
mhm,
mostly if that's what your siblings. Actually, we are five in the family. I have the youngest one who's still in school, and then the rest of us, the four of us, are already working. Like
mhm,
when my two older siblings were already graduated college, they were also expecting me to follow the same path. And I'm like, really, because I'm the middle child, I
mhm,
always see myself as a different one. Like, I always do what I wanted to do, like, way back before. My two of my siblings, they actually graduated in the same university that I was in, and in the same degree program, the two of them. And I was like the black sheep that they consider because I normally do what I just wanted to do. And then here comes a point in my life, like I told myself when I was already working, I actually like this is what I've learned. Like you also mentioned that when you see someone that you wanted to be that person, not because you wanted to dethrone or you wanted to like really replace that person, but because you were inspired of what the person is doing. I remember one time when I was working in the office already, I told myself that this is what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a supervisor. And
mhm,
then when I became a supervisor, I told myself I'll be staying in this position for only a year or two because I wanted to move up.
mhm,
And then when I'm already in the position, I realize that this is something that is already tricky because I'm very much a very like I'm a people person. I don't normally just stay like be in my computer and talk to like people that are like something that is really, I want something that I can someone that I could talk to, like it doesn't matter if it's virtual, as long as it's a very good conversation. So that's why I started, like really, this probably for me it happens after the pandemic. Like it's a turning point for me also, like really after the pandemic, like everything, like also as what I have mentioned, it's within the pandemic, I guess, that there's also a strong typhoon that is coming to that hit Philippines like really strong. Even that time that I think it took 3 months for the power to be up here. That's also a very sad story because I realized that everything is really uncertain. So that's when I told myself I have to quit the job. So people are, why do you quit the job? You already got the position. Like this is something that is very good as a position. Like I mean, I told them, well, I understand your point, but this is one thing that I also wanted to do. And then they were like, what are you going to do? Like all those questions that people will be asking to you. Are you going to stay at home? Are you going to be a mother? Are you just going to stay like that forever? I'm like, huh? Why are you asking me these questions? I don't know. I don't know what will happen in the future. Just so you wait. Like I'm like, oh, okay, I'm just chilling at home and all those things. And then right, boom, right after the pandemic, there's also a super typhoon that hit Philippines. And I was like, wow, everything is really uncertain. I have no contact with my family for a week. And it's also a funny story because my husband and I really decided to have our church wedding because, well, nothing against the church wedding, but for me, I just don't feel like I will be having a church wedding. It's not something that I was thinking at
Mhm.
the back of my mind. Like, and then my husband told me, "Yeah, let's try church wedding." And I was, do we have the money and all those
Yeah.
things? Because yeah, I always told him like, if that's something that we only spend for once, then let's not spend it. Let's just save it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it just like come right through us. And then there's a planner that is coming to the house. I was, huh? Okay. So I was just talking to her and everything ran smoothly. So I said, oh, okay, this is the date that we will be having our church wedding. The date before our church wedding, the super typhoon hit our place. So it's devastating. I cannot call my parents. I cannot call those people that I have invited. So that day, I just laid down in the sofa in the house and I was like, okay, my planner will be coming or not, whatever it is. I don't care. So like when that day arrived, the planner was in our house. She was telling me that what do I want? Do I want to push the wedding? Do I want to postpone the wedding? I was like, I'd be crazy if I'd push through the wedding with no guests.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And she's like, that's what I was saying. But I appreciate that time really, the effort that she made in coming to the house without any transportation because she said she was just riding a motorbike or a motorcycle
Oh my.
from the place where she was staying, which is so far from our house. It's probably like 2 hours.
Oh my.
Yes, and I was like, really? And she even like she told me that her husband was also wounded because of the
Oh
debris that are
no.
falling from their way to our house. So I was really shocked. So I told her like cancel everything out. Let's postpone. Let's look for another date. And right then on, it hit me so hard that yeah, everything is really uncertain. Why would you do such
Mhm.
thing that why would you do a thing that you're not very much sure of, or why would you do a thing that you're just comfortable, like go out
Mhm.
from your comfort zone and make have fun, like do something that is really fun for you. So that's why that's the reason also that I ventured into podcasting, because this is also one thing. Like my husband asked me, what is it that you really want if you wanted to do a podcast? And my friends are also asking me, like, really, I told them, you know that I'm talkative. I talk to a lot of people. And they were like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. But what is the platform that you wanted to do? Or what is this? And all that, all the questions that they're throwing at me. And I'm like, okay, I'll just get everything by. So it will just come. And so that's the reason why also like we are talking about a certain turning point. For me, that's also the turning point. Like for you, that's something that really the pageant really helps you, which is
Yeah.
very, which is also something that is very like good to listen, because a lot of people are also thinking that it's something that is difficult to be with. Like you will be encountering women that are also scary, that are unfriendly to you, but good thing the experience that you had made you stronger and believe in yourself more. So
Absolutely.
that's yeah,
I'm
that's one thing.
I'm very, very lucky about that because I know there's a lot of women that suffer from eating disorders related to pageantry, related to the
Mm,
comments that they receive online about their own bodies.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I mean, I'll take Sierra Burchell, for example, which was Miss Universe Canada in 2016 at the same time that I was Miss Teen Quebec. And she was very resilient. And in the pageant in Philippines, she was getting a lot of very negative comments about her body just because she was a size 8.
Oh
And
my
for
god.
those that know a lot about pageantry, they'll remember this, that during the 1 month long pageant in the Philippines, like she was getting so much hate just because she was larger than other women. And you know what? She made the top 9 and she won best in swimsuit. So she is one of my inspirations, definitely.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, actually, it's always a joke here in Philippine stuff that we have highest standard when it comes to pageant, but not the politicians.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's really funny, and it's also one thing because politicians here in the Philippines, they love pageant. I remember, I think that's 1995, I guess, where Philippines was crowned as the Miss Universe.
Mm.
There's supposed to be a Senate hearing, but the Senate hearing was canceled because our politicians are watching the Miss Universe.
That's funny.
That's really a funny story. So that's why people are like saying probably we should get another qualifications for our politicians. Probably the pageant people are the ones that should be the standard when it comes to qualifications on how to become or who is the next politician to rule in the country. So that's also funny thing of the
That's
pageant here in the Philippines.
That is hilarious. But the Filipino women, I think that's how you say it. Whatever, they are
Mm-hmm.
so impressive on the Miss Universe stage. Every year, I'm so impressed, and I really get the hype. But maybe they should go in politics because they have great ideas and they represent the
Yes.
country very well. So perhaps they should change not just with pageantry. They should try to do politics because they can make change that way.
Yeah, yeah, I guess I would agree. I would be in you in that one. So that's a very good thing. That's a hilarious thing, but also that's one thing that we should be thinking about here in our country. It's funny, but that's a striking statement also that I was like, oh, yeah, why not? So yeah, I guess thank you for your for imparting that beautiful story that you've had during your pageant years, Steph. And I'm well, should we be expecting another sash come from you? So yeah, that's one thing. So that's one thing. And so I guess I'm ready to move on with my second question. So since we're talking about your pageantry experience, what are the advocacies that you are very passionate about, and could you share to us, especially to those who will be seeing this episode, what is the proudest moment that you've had with while you were doing that advocacy?
Well, there's so many that I've been a part of, but I would talk about my first one first,
Mm,
which was when I was Miss Teen Quebec. Uh,
mm-mm,
I helped raise $5,000 for Opération Enfant Soleil, which is a French Canadian based fundraiser, I suppose that's how you could call it.
mm,
Organization, that's what I meant. That helps sick kids in hospitals that
mm,
are have terminal treatment or that really need really expensive treatment to be able to help them
mm.
and keep them alive. And it's to create a little bit of happiness and a little bit of help for the parents and therapy for the kids, for the parents. So I helped raise all that money with the other title holders of that year, and it was a really great
Wow.
impact for such a young age to be able to help
Mm.
with something so big and
Yes,
so
yes.
helpful. And it was very of a humbling moment. And afterwards, I also helped to raise more money when I was competing for Miss Teen Canada, which I was
Mm.
in second place, so first runner up at that in 2018. And later on, I was a little bit lost with which kind of advocacies I wanted to do. So in the pageants in between, but once I decided to compete for the first time for Miss Galaxy Canada
Mm-hmm.
in 2021, I that was the first time I competed. Now I'm going back, but the first time I competed, I created something called Vision of Representation, which was
Mm-hmm.
right in the midst of the pandemic. I wanted to find a place where we could communicate. And communication has
Mhm.
been so important to me in general. I think it's a great way to learn and to grow from
Mm.
one another. And through the work that I've been doing with my personal work and also with school, because I studied communication, it really shifted my mind about the importance of representation. And
Mm.
so I created this series during the pandemic, which is talking like this in a video format and editing it
Mm.
and
Mhm.
interviewing people from all around the world about some of their issues, some of the things that go on in their lives, and just
Mm.
representing different cultures and different ideas and a way to open people's minds in a sense. Because I wanted to create a place where people could watch and learn about other people. Because in a time that was so isolating and that you couldn't really go
Yeah,
out
yeah,
and meet
yeah.
other people, it was very difficult for a lot of people. And I think in that moment of isolation, you stop learning and you stop getting to know
Yes,
new
yes.
people. So I wanted to create a way to allow people to watch and learn from others' experiences. So I had actors come in, I had dancers, people that in various industries and
Mm.
pageantry, and it was all over the place. I had people in
Wow.
engineering and all
Mm.
sorts of fields, and listening to the stories that of what kind of adversities or what kind of problems that they face in their lives, whether it's women in male dominated industries or
Mm.
addiction or health issues.
Yes, yes.
It was really important to me to get those stories out. So vision representation, that was that. I did around 50 episodes with people from all around the world, and I would release them every week. I did that for a whole year. So that was
Wow.
a really fun process, and it was very humbling for me to do that. And I learned so much through other people for
Mm.
doing that. But yeah, and then once the world opened up again, I wanted
Mm.
to do something else, a different project. Like vision representation was really fun and very good for me, but I wanted to do something else. So I started La Dame Kitzik because since I'm a movie fan, TV fan, book
Mm.
reader, I wanted to have a safe place for people to talk about those things.
Mm.
I think that entertainment in general brings people together so much.
Yeah, yeah.
We kind of neglect it. We kind of say like, oh well, it's just something I do on my off time, or it's just something that I don't really think about. But in fact, it really shapes our society because the way that we see on the screen is the way that we see ourselves, right? So if you can see someone that looks like you, that does something like you, it feels really
True.
relatable, and you feel like you belong. And I think
That's
that
true.
it's so important to talk about movies with people because it makes you think critically about what you're watching, and thinking critically allows for a better society in a sense. It allows
Mm.
for more thoughts to come into your mind and questions to say, is this right? Is this politician right for thinking that this? Is this
Mm.
politician right for thinking that? And it makes you grow. It makes you think about, I mean, I know it's really far fetched to say that movies can change your perspective, but I really think that it can change
Yeah.
the way that a society can go. And I think that we are very lucky that most films are sharing really important messages to us, and really, I'm very excited about this industry. So that's why I started writing about reviews
Mm.
and
Mm.
writing about all these movies, TV shows, and having live movie discussions, which I had with you every month, so that we can keep have these conversations going. And so, if anyone is interested in ever being in a live movie discussion, being one of my guests, and talking for about 45 minutes with me about a movie,
Mm.
well, please let me know. But it is really a great experience to talk about film because we can learn so much about one another through just communication, but we can learn a lot about the thoughts of a filmmaker and what their plan was and how we can change the world with whatever those thoughts were. I don't know.
Mm.
I just think it's such a beautiful medium, and that's why I just want to talk to people about it, communicate, share the message. Being a woman in in the critic industry, whatever that means, because there's so little critics that are
Mm.
women, and so I'm just saying my 2 cents about about the things that I really care about, and sparking conversations, safe conversations for people to share their thoughts, share their feelings about film, because we shouldn't be having that experience all by ourselves. We should be
Mm.
talking about it with others and learning and growing through. other people's opinions, no matter what they are, because I think that every opinion is valid, even though some
Yeah.
might be wrong or right, but it is still
Mm.
valid. There's no right or wrong. It's just being able to share your feelings, and we shouldn't be keeping that all inside.
Mm-mm. Wow, that's just like a lot of things that you are very passionate about, Steph. And you know what? What's also one thing that brought us when it comes to movie, because as what I've said, like actually movie is my refuge, is what they well it's like long before I just watch movie, like definitely I stayed at home and just like really on my downtime, that's one thing that I would want to do. Like before I ventured into movie, like this is a funny story. Before I also jump into watching movies, I've also read a lot of books, and normally when I go to bookstores, I'm looking for the ugliest and the like the scariest and like the oldest book that I can see in the bookstore. That's what I'm going to buy. That's what I'm going to read. But then it turns out that I'm sorry if you're a fan of it or anyone who's a fan of it. Like when 50 Shades of Grey comes into power, like I should say, like people are telling me you should read this because you love reading and all those things. When I read it, that's the time I stopped reading. I told myself I will never read anything about this anymore because that book sucks. I don't like it. It's like being written by a high school. Like I this is what I told my husband about, and he was like, wow, you should stop telling those stories. And I'm like, no, that's my opinion. That's one thing I would wanted to share. Like really, I was so shocked that the people are so crazy about it. And I was like, what is so crazy about it? I don't understand. Like really. So yeah, I don't understand. I stopped reading. Like I stopped for any books. Like I'm just into reading like motherhood when I was about to give birth, like motherhood, breastfeeding, and all those things. Like that's one thing I read it. For fiction, no, not anymore. I don't like. I
That's
stopped.
okay. And everyone has their own thing. I
Yeah.
pretty much only read fiction, and for me, nonfiction is usually not my thing. But you
Mm.
never know; you can be surprised.
Yeah, yeah. Probably in the future. I'm not closing my doors, but that's a moment I realized like it's a funny thing, but really our beliefs and opinions are very different. It's a varied thing, but sometimes you can also agree to disagree. That's also one thing that I've learned. Like really, I remember what Viola Davis also mentioned. Like when she was in, I guess it's in BAFTA, that she said like movie is storytelling. Like
Mhm.
that's true. Movie is storytelling. It mirrors our life. It mirrors someone else's life, and it's a good thing that you see someone as a perfect representation. Like actually, I
Mhm.
talked to someone who's really not very open when it comes to her sexuality, and she said when I saw this movie, that's like really an awakening for me that
Mhm.
I don't care what other people are telling about me. I don't see anything wrong with me because that's what
Mhm.
I've seen in movies. I feel like I'm being represented, and also I've known someone who's also like not very open to talk about it, but when they see it in the movie, they were like, I guess this is me. This is a representation of myself. So that's one thing also that I like in movies, and also in movies, that's where you become like really free of whatever your emotions would be flowing. Like if
Mhm.
you're happy, you're into happy movies. If you're sad, if you wanted to be sad. Normally me, if I wanted to cry, because I don't really cry a lot, that's me. I don't really cry a lot if there are like scenes in a movie that is so touching and moving. I was like, I'm looking at the people who's watching together with me, and I will be that one person who is laughing while the rest are crying.
But it's true. But to go on with what you're saying, like movies does allow to live others' experience and makes you relate to them a little bit better. You,
Mm,
you could rather see yourself in a film, but you could also see someone else. For
mm.
example, the movie Boy Erased, which was a movie that really changed my perspective on sexuality in a sense. It is about a gay boy that goes to conversion school and how
Oh.
terrible that is and how
Mm,
horrible the procedures that they try to put these kids through
mm, mm,
because they don't want to accept them, and that's very unfortunate. But seeing the pain that this boy was going through, it made me relate and made me understand like what it is to for a man to fall in love with a man and how
mm,
okay it is. And I think it's so important to see that those kinds of representations. And
Mm,
it
yeah, yeah, yeah.
frustrated me, the idea of conversion therapy and all those things, and it wasn't something I had knew much about. And
Mm,
so that's one example. But another example is I know nothing about being a black woman or being a black man. I know nothing about it because I am not that. But if I
mm,
watch a movie that represents a black man or a black woman's story and that talks about the realities of racism in a way that I can see and that I can recognize the ignorance and the prejudice
yeah.
of the white man or the white woman, I think it really opens your eyes to being nicer and being kind to other people. And I think
Mm,
movies do have the power, TV shows do have the power to change the way that you think about others and being more open-minded. I think it's so important to watch movies that are going to challenge you, that are going to think, that are going to change your perspective on things, to watch drama films, to watch films that are about things that are not about you, that are about someone else, and
mm,
learn from those
mm.
perspectives, because it's so important. Everyone has different reality, everyone lives different things about mental health, about anything. There's so many
Mm,
stories to tell, and I think that everyone needs to, one, share their story, but also that we need to listen to others and be
that's
more
true.
open-minded.
Mm, that's true. That's also, yeah, as what I've mentioned, that's one thing also that brought us like really when I gave birth, people are I've been reading and listening that when your child is asleep, you should be asleep. I've already mentioned this, but to me, every time my little one is asleep, I should always have find time to watch movies, and it depends upon what are the movies that are available for me. But normally, I always have a target of movies that I would wanted to watch for like really if this movie comes out in a month, if that's one movie that I like to watch, I would wait for it to be available here in Philippines so that I will
Mhm.
be able to watch it. So all those things like movies are really something that made me like deal when it comes to how I deal with emotions, to how I handle with my little one, to how you handle the way in my married life. It's not that everything that I've seen in movies is as what you mentioned that you wanted to mirror yourself out from that, but it's one thing that you can learn on. So you can really like you have variety of perspectives and you become open with everything. You don't really easily judge others of what they were doing and what they are thinking. So also this is one thing that I'll be sharing for the first time as well. So since podcast I just open up with the podcast, and also like I've been filtering people that are coming into the show. And then there's one person that also been asking me if we're the right fit when it comes to this discussions, and we already had our discussions. But good thing now when I on the later part of my life, I realized when to say no, because
Mhm.
I know that there are people that are really like this experience of mine is something that people should be learning, that at some point you should learn how to say no. Actually, I learned this later on in my life because I'm like the kind of person who's really yes person. If you
Yeah.
wanted me to do this, I'm really a yes person. And then it so happened that once we had our conversation, I saw a lot of red flags and off, because she was telling me that um, she is not very much in favor when it comes to the LGBTQI.
Mhm.
She just wanted to be like, I mean, she wanted her child not to know a lot of things when it comes to sexual preferences and sexual orientation, which to me I respect if that's something that she wanted to raise her child with. But if it's something that is very offensive when it comes to the LGBTQ community, that's where I would say no, because
Mhm.
I'm a great ally with the LGBTQ community. And I'm like the one person in the office that would be asking my guy friends, oh my God, you should come to the Proud Parade. You should come to the
Yeah.
Pride March. And they were telling me, what? Isn't this just all about gays and lesbians and all those things? I'm like, no, that's a stereotype. That's a stigma
Yeah.
that you should be erasing. And then
Yeah.
when we had our conversation, I was really having like red flags. So of course I was like, oh, okay, this is her perspective. I understand this. But when it comes to a certain point of our conversation that she was like, it's so gross to me, it's ill when she said that. So I was like, okay, this is a turning point. I would say no to you. So
Mhm.
when she gets back to me, I was telling her that because I was really sick that time, I was telling her that I was sick, but unfortunately, I told her, unfortunately, I will not be pushing through with our conversation. So I don't care if she understands or not, but to me, as long as you know the right person that is fit for the podcast or your discussion, then you should go for that person. But if that person is something that you see as a red flag, or probably a person who just wanted to share her
Mhm.
opinion because she wanted the world to really know that she's against about it, which I'm really not against about. So that's the time that I say no. So I
Yeah.
said no to it. So I mean, like, really in the later part of your life, you would realize like when you should say no to a certain point and when you should say yes. So that's also one thing that I learned about when it comes to when it comes to how you deal with life. Like, really, most of the time when I was like, if I relate it into movies, most of the time when my friends are actually the ones influencing me that I need to watch this movie, I need to watch this one, and then and they realize later on, I had this certain moment in my life that I was like, okay, I should search what are the movies that are banned, what
Mhm.
are the weird movies. I wanted to
Yeah.
watch all of them because it doesn't matter if these movies are different from the rest of the other friends that you have, as long as you can watch it and you have your certain perspective. What's the reason why this is different from them? So it makes everything open, as you said, Steph. It
Mhm.
makes everything open. Like, you become open minded, even if you did not. This is also one thing. Even if I did not travel other countries yet, but when I saw movies, I was this person that my friend who's been traveling to Thailand, who's been traveling to Singapore, who's asking me, she's asking me, what is it that you call that vehicle in Thailand? And I was like, you call it as tuk tuk. And she said, yeah, I know you know this one because you've been watching movies about this. So I was like, oh, okay, that's one thing. It feels like you're already traveling. You're already on another country when you watch a lot of movies. It opens a lot of things also.
Yes, definitely. It opens your mind to so many things, and you learn, you travel,
Mm,
you see different things, and I think that's really really important.
mm. So yeah, I guess we've had with our second question. I'll jump in with with the last one, Steph. So I know not everything is perfect, especially in our life. We've come to challenges. We've encountered difficulties as well. So with all those things that you've encountered, what keeps you from doing all these things that creates positive impact?
Yeah, I think I've always been someone in general that has never really been angry. That's someone that's very accepting and open,
Mm,
and that has
yeah,
always had this like
yeah, I've sensed that in you too.
thank you. I'm like I've never been like this kind of person that holds a grudge, I guess. So I
Mm,
think for me, positivity has can come easy to me, but it
mm,
hasn't always been that way. I think with my depression that I've had in my high school years, as I was talking at the beginning
mm,
about, it was as I was only seeing dark. I was only seeing negative and very very critical, and nothing was making me happy in a sense. Um, but I was able to shift that just through challenging myself, through doing new experiencing experiences, to force myself to create a
mm,
set schedule, a routine, something that makes me excited and
mm,
about what's the next thing, to
mhm,
to just do new things. And I think that's kind of why I'm doing Nadam Kitik. It's a way to create a positive impact through speaking with others and doing something
mm,
that fuels my heart and fuels my feelings and
mhm,
fuels my passion and energy, and also my passion for communicating with others, which is so 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 important. So
mhm,
it's about not thinking about the negative and focusing on what's positive about things. And yes, I do critique negatively about certain movies, but it still creates a positive impact in the sense that I'm inviting people to talk about the film, to talk
mm,
about what
mm.
pleases, what doesn't please someone, and that's totally okay because everyone can have positive or negative thoughts about an art piece, and
Yeah,
they can be valid.
yeah, yeah.
Both of those can be valid, and I think that sharing whether it's a positive or a negative review is important because it's sharing your own self, your own
Mm,
opinion, and your own like a personality. And I think sharing who you are is so 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 important. You can do it through that.
mm,
So creating a positive impact is to have like a consistent way to be kind to people, to share your light. It is to challenge yourself. So that's how I do it. I do it through social media. I do it through being
Mm,
kind to everyone at work, saying hello to everyone, being smiling
mm,
to people on the streets, and not being afraid to get out of your comfort zone. It's so isolating when you're always afraid of what other people think and what's just making yourself feel so small. The life is so short. Don't make yourself feel so small. Like let your let your light shine. Be
mm,
proud of who you are. What people think, it doesn't matter. And you know what? I read this from a book and it changed my life.
mm.
No one cares. No one cares. Like
Yeah.
no one will think about you like 5 years from now. Like they don't care about what shirt you wore or
Mm,
that
that's
sentence you
true.
said that was awkward. No
Mm,
one cares because 90% of the time people think about themselves. They don't think about
mm,
you. And that's the reality. And once you understand that in your mind that people are only thinking about their own things, they're not thinking about you. And it's not to say that you are lesser. It's not to say that, but it's
mm,
saying that
mm,
you do not have to worry what other people think. And it really doesn't matter. Everyone has their own opinion, and everyone has, like we were saying, everyone has their valid opinion because it's their own
mm,
self and they're putting their
mm,
own insecurities on whatever opinion that they're going to say. And it's, you know what? You just have to let it go. You just have
mm.
to say, and that person's not even going to think about that in 2 days.
That's
So
true. That's true.
let it go because I don't. And I'm sure that you don't either. When you judge someone on the street or whatever, when you judge someone for doing something, I bet that in 2 days you won't even remember what you judged them about. Other people treat you the same. So if I can say something, it's just be positive, be kind. Yes, be kind to the people around you. Say compliments that you actually do genuinely mean.
Mm,
Contact people. Stay in touch with the people that you love, the people that actually make a difference in your life in a
mm,
positive way. I mean, I've read somewhere that you are the combination of the five closest people around you. So hold those people
oh,
that are really close to you. Yeah,
mm,
five people. That's not a lot. So hold those people that are really positive and really good close to you because you're going to become that light and you're going to take from those attributes and become lighter.
oh, wow, wow. That's a powerful one. Well, actually, I'm very happy, Steph, that you were able to step out with the moment that you had, that the dark moments that you had, and you are exuding a lot of positivity right now, especially when it comes to how you deal with people and social media. Like, if I haven't seen like everything of your post in your Instagram account, the movie critic account that you have, and then when I read the first one that you posted about yourself, I was like, wow, she's very open. Like really, she's very open about herself. She doesn't need people to be telling her don't post this, don't post that. But you were very open. That also exudes a lot of positivity. And well, of course, you've had a lot of guests and you were able to establish a strong connections with them. That's because you're very genuine also. That's what I have seen, especially when the first time that we are having our conversation with. So like really nothing goes wrong when you're just being true to yourself. So that's one thing I've learned also. And also when it comes to like, I don't know, probably this is because a lot of hormones are coming in after you gave birth to me. Like I'm that person who really gets angry easily. But one
Mhm.
thing that gives me positive is that if I feel like I'm really angry, I normally pause. So that helps a lot. I don't do anything. I don't say anything if I get too angry. Or else I'll just tell it like a lot of things to my husband. I'll talk and let him absorb everything. And I was like, tomorrow I forget it. So that's also one thing that I learned. I've actually learned it by myself because I noticed and I recognize to myself that when there are certain triggers that makes me really angry that much, I really get pissed off and get angry. So I told my husband, "Did you notice that I'm really most angry all the time after I gave birth?" And he was like, let me recall." And he was like, "You're like angry to me all the time." So I said, no, that's not true. If you observe, like really there are small things that makes me really angry when in fact that's something that I'm not angry before. So I told him, well, I don't think I need to be consulting anything or a doctor about it, but as long as I recognize to myself that this is a different thing that I have experienced and I'm feeling. So that's why I paused and I said, I should make this a routine to myself and really get out of my comfort zone also. So since I'm just staying at home, like really most of the time I'm with my little one, which I don't have any regrets. Like I could exchange the world for this one. I could be a wrestler for him. I could be his sparring mate. I don't care. I'm really having fun time with him. So that's it. That's my reason I pause normally if there's something that is negative, and I don't give anything right after that, because normally, as what you said, it will just go away really.
Mhm.
Like after that, I had this fun experience because I had friends also that are married, and she told me that, you know what, I'm planning to fight with my husband. I was like, what, you planning to fight your husband? And then she told me, I have this schedule, I will be fighting him for this date. And that's crazy. I said, that's crazy. And then eventually I asked her, what happens, were you really fighting, what happens, what transpires? And she was like, you know what, I forgot. I said,
Mhm.
oh, that's interesting. That's interesting to know that if you are really into something that is positive, if you surround yourself with people that are really positive, they influenced you a lot, and they also
Mhm.
exudes positivity to the rest of the people around you. So it doesn't matter if you have bad days. I do have bad days.
Yeah,
It's not perfect
everyone
all the
does.
time. Yes, everyone has bad days, but as long as you within yourself, you realize that that's not one thing that you should dwell on. That's not something that you should live on. It's just a phase. It's just a moment. So
Yeah.
you have to realize that you can carry on and move on to the next one. So that's also one my share when it comes to this one. It's not always sunshine. It's not always like a
No.
good day. Like look at us. There will be a super typhoon coming.
It's true, and I want to add, like, whenever you complain about something, whenever you put into the world, oh, this person is annoying, or this person did that, or I hate my work, or whenever you say those things into the universe, into the world, you are putting in bad energy around that, and you
That's true.
are every time you are faced with that situation again, if ever that person does the same thing to you again, it will just make you even more angry and more mad, and
Mm,
you'll complain even more about it, and you'll attract way more of it, and it'll become way worse than the first time you've experienced that thing that
mm,
annoyed you or whatever happened.
mm,
So instead of putting all this complaining and these negative things, put the things in the world that you want in your life. Like say to the people like, "Hey, I'm going to do this thing."
that's
For
true. That's true.
example, I've had a fear of cutting my hair like for so many years.
Oh, really?
You can ask my whole family. It's been like a huge fear. It's stupid how this comes to play, but and then I wanted to cut my hair like really short because I wanted to give
Mm,
it for cancer, and my hair was really long, and so
wow.
I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put it into the world. The more times that I say I'm gonna do it, then I'm gonna cut my hair. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna like and give like I gave like a lot of hair. So I was like, I'm
Wow.
gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And now my hair's short, so I did it. And I did it, and I had so much confidence in doing it in the end because I had
Mm,
spoken about it and put it into the world in such a
that's
positive light
true.
and saying like I'm gonna do it. It's gonna be great. It's gonna happen. And once I did it, I was so proud of myself. And it's when you put these little positive things into universe instead of putting the negative energy into the universe, you're just gonna attract that more. Put more positive energy into your life and put and talk about the things that you want in your life because you're just gonna attract that way more.
That's true. That's true. I also want I needed to add one thing as well, Steph,
Go
before
ahead.
we're going to jump on the fast talk. Like really, I've also read this one that most of us people are really designed to say things negatively. Like for example, when someone asks you, "What's your favorite song? What's your favorite movie?" People would always answer like, "I don't like this movie. I don't
Mhm.
like this kind of song." When in fact the context of the question is that what is your favorite movie, what is your favorite song, but you always turn it into negative. So that's one thing I support you, like when you said you put it into the world. Like if someone would ask me like what's your favorite song, I would usually answer, I like this one, I like this one, blah
Mhm.
blah blah, I like this song coming from Lady Gaga, I like this song coming from like those artists. So that's a practice of mine before. Like really, when someone asks me what's your favorite song, like I would really tell my friends that, you know what, I don't like this new song coming. Like really, we are programmed to see like the don'ts, the negative. But if you switch it and put it the world in a positive way, that also changed a lot of things. Your perspective would also change. Like towards positivity, not into something that's negative.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yep. So yeah, I guess we're ready to go through with our fast
Let's
talk.
do
This is just
it.
yeah, yeah. This is just like very really a fast one because this is a fast talk. So I have three things here, Steph. So first one is that would you agree on this one that beauty pageants have been shown to have a harmful effect on the contestants' self-esteem?
For
Would you
me,
agree? Yep.
for me, no. But I think in general, oh, I think it's a reality of a lot of women. Yes.
Mm-hmm, that's true. Also, for well, I don't have experience when it comes to pageantry. I don't want to try also because that's not my cup of tea. I just love talking. Yeah, we have other things that we wanted to do, but also for me, this is also one thing as a reality. I agree. This is a reality that's also happening, not just here in Philippine pageantry. We're really harsh when it comes to
Mhm.
like how we deal with the women,
Yeah.
especially that are in the pageant industry. Not so much with the men. I don't know why, but they're putting a
Yeah.
lot of emphasis when it
Sexism.
comes. That's true. No, they're putting a lot of emphasis, especially negative comments when it comes to the women that are in the pageant industry. That's a
Well,
sad reality.
it's a sad reality. So just think that these women are putting themselves out there. They're so courageous
That's
for
true.
doing it. Like, just be kind. Like, you don't
That's
have to.
true.
If you have something bad to say, just keep it to yourself. Like,
That's true.
that's all I have to say.
That's true. Actually, that's pretty scary here in Philippines because we have a lot, as we call it, as a keyboard warriors.
Hmm.
Like really, when I saw someone like coming from the pageant industry that is like very harsh to other candidates, I would usually tell it like, we call it as I call it as a chica. Like this is a Filipino term. I would usually tell it to my husband. You know what? This is something that happened, and I would not say anything bad about it because I know how it affects the other people,
Yeah.
especially. It's really hard if you don't know the person who's been commenting you. It's so much easier that you know that person like giving you criticism. You know that this person is telling me that I should be doing this. At some point you would realize that probably this also made sense, or probably this is also one thing that I should be improving. But if the person you did not know this person, that's quite scary for me. That's a scary thing for me.
If you wouldn't say it to your mother, then don't write it. Like, don't say it. Like, if you would not say that to your mother, then just don't write it down. Like,
That's true. That's a good thing. I
yeah,
like that one, Steph.
yeah.
Easy, but that's true.
Hmm.
Okay, so let's move on to the second one. So the second one is coming from a friend of mine. So it's also very fun when it comes to pageant. He's actually like he's a teacher, and
Okay.
he just wanted to ask this question like after winning a pageant, life becomes smooth sailing. Is it true?
Oh no, no. It becomes very chaotic because you become super busy all of a sudden. Like, I remember
Mm.
I was 16 years old and I had a job that had just started like 3 weeks before winning the title, and I had to let that job go because then I was
Oh.
busy every weekend and I had so many things that I was a teenager, right? So it was just like on the weekends, but then doing pageant things, I had things every weekend almost. So I just when you're a title holder, you have so much to do, and you become some sort of role model for people. So you have to stay active and you have to stay busy and do things that will impact your community positively.
Perfect, perfect. It doesn't really go smooth sailing, but you were able to get a grab of it.
Yes, well, it's difficult, and I'm lucky that I had really great support, a really great support system of the people around me, and my parents. And at the time, they were just excellent helps with bringing me places and doing what I had to
Wow,
do. I was really lucky.
that's what matters.
Yeah.
Yep. So let's move on to the last one. So this last one, Steph, this is actually coming online. I've searched this one. So
Okay.
in the world dominated by men, it takes mountains to be able to make a difference. Being a
Mhm.
woman, would you agree on this one?
Oh yes, definitely. Um,
Hell yes.
it is still unfortunately a barrier for women today to
Mm.
be in male dominated industries, whether it is in film, whether it's in engineering and sciences. I'm
Mm.
currently reading a book called Lessons in Chemistry right now, which is all about that. It's the limitations that women have to go through instead of instead of men.
Mm.
That book is specifically in the science industry, but it's things that men sometimes ignore today. That they say like, oh, it's not a problem for women anymore, but it's not true. It's not the reality for a lot of women out there because it is not. It's true that everywhere men are more likely to get hired and get higher salaries than women are, just because they are women, just because they are of a different sex. For films, men are more likely to have higher budgets of $200 million movie budgets than women are. And
Mm.
if one woman makes a mistake and doesn't make money out of the film, she gets forgotten in the film industry. Versus a
That's
man
true.
has many tries, that he gets many chances to do other $200 million movies. While a woman, if she makes one mistake, she will never be seen ever again. So it's having that grace that is, it's very unfortunate that we're still living in a world where women are not equal to men.
Mm.
And unfortunately, and I really hope that in the future that will change, because I think there's still too much people that are empowered, that are have these really back-minded ways, and that have these ways of thinking that women should be only in the household. And that's fine if some women
Mm.
want to stay in the house. It's not what I'm
Mhm.
saying. I'm saying
Mhm.
that not all women want to do that, and that's okay. Like, there should be a more space for them. And
Mm.
so, in as being, I work currently in the editing industry in
Mhm.
Montreal, and we are of the team of what, 8 or 9 assistants. We are 2 girls, so
Wow.
there is this difference, and we were the 2 first girls that were got hired there.
Oh my
So
god.
we're in 2023, like, and we got
That's
hired
true.
around the same time. But and it's very rare for women to be in there. And perhaps I was hired because I was a woman, because now there's quotas that need to be made. But at least there is that. Like, we need
Mm.
that, because we need to have different representation in the media that we create.
That's
if
true.
I
That's
see
true.
if I edit something that I think is very disrespectful to against women, that is very
Mm.
sexist, and that is extremely wrong, I'm going to say something, because I'm a woman and I live the realities that are on television. If if And we need diversity, not just with women, but with different races. We need to have more people from the Black community, from the LGBTQ community, to
Mm.
from the indigenous communities, from all different kinds of communities. We need to reunite, and we need to be part of the people behind the media, so that we can allow for more accepting
That's
works
true.
of art. It's so important, because we are representing, we are making the mirror of our own society. So we need to be more open and inclusive, and think about, well, is this right what we're doing?
Mm.
Because when you're a bunch of white men in a room trying to make a decision about a movie about well, I don't know, Black issues,
Mm.
I
Mm.
mean, are you right? Are you the correct person to
Mm.
talk
That's true.
about Black issues if you're a table surrounded by white men? I don't think so. I don't think you are the correct people to be talking about, to be making a movie about Black issues. It should be people that have lived, or that live certain
Mm.
similar adversities, that should be in that room, that should be able to talk about those conversations. Um, and yeah, it shouldn't just be white people in suits. You know what I mean?
Mm. Wow, that's quite also something that interesting because I actually had an experience of being a teacher and also as as part of the management or the administration, which is a supervisor. And I'm not happy about this, but this is one thing that I'm sharing mostly with the people that I'm talking, that I was still surprised of the number of women that are in both industry. I've learned that on the ground level, especially for teachers here in Philippines, there are a lot of teachers like level 1 entry that are female. They are the ones underground, but if you see the higher ups, you would really be thinking, also, this is dominated by female, but you would be surprised that there are a lot of men that are in the higher position, of
Mhm.
which I have nothing against because there are also men that are capable to do that
Yeah.
position, that job description. But then when you realize if they do not have the same experience of being in a ground level to compare to those women, you would see the difference of how they are going to rule or to probably manage a certain school. So that's what I've learned when I was a teacher. And then when I comes into the supervisory side and the admin, I realized that there are also the same number of difference when it comes to men working in the company compared to the women. And I was even shocked at once because I hate being late, but there was one event that I had to attend with regards to the Proud community that I had to run from one, like really from one island here in Philippines to the next. So it's a different island, but so I was late and I was so shocked when I get inside the room. It's just me. There's just one woman in
Mm-hmm.
in the supervisory side. I was really shocked and I was like, what is wrong? I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, I don't care. I don't care if I'm late, but I at least I have that feeling that I will be able to represent the rest of the other women. So I
Mhm.
was like sitting in there, I was telling stories and I was telling them blah 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 and all those things. But I'm still very shocked because as what you mentioned, it's already 2023 and there is still a disparity between men and women when it comes to working fields, and also when it comes to how the wages are being paid, it's also quite different, and the stereotypes as well as to the limitations of the women, of
Mhm.
how the women can do specific work. So I've had an experience before that I had my fellow supervisor who's a man, and he's telling me that he is banning to hire women who are married, and I was like, my God, what is I really slammed him and told him like, what is wrong with you? And then
Yeah.
at first at first I realized like, I mean, I understand what's your reason. I want to know what's your reason. I told him, I asked him, I want to know what's your reason why you would like to do so. And he was like, because when it's automatic that when the child gets sick, the mother would also get absent. I was like, of course, that's basic. That's one thing. You're a mother, but can you also take a look at how they're capable of doing work? They can multitask, they can also do these things. And that's also one thing that's sad to me. Like, really, they are putting a certain box to women. This is what
Mhm.
I've shared with one of my friends also in the office. Like, we have an open sharing. Like, really, that's one thing. We always box women, especially, wow, she's single. She's probably going on a date on a weekly basis. She cannot be attending work and all those things. She's married, so she should automatically be absent if the kid is sick. So they're putting a certain box to the women in the industry, when in fact they did not know yet what are the capabilities and what are the things that this woman can do. So that's why that's one thing also that opens my mind when I become a supervisor, because when I was in the entry level, like really the level one, I was really like a happy-go-lucky person. I don't care. I just get my salary. I'll just go out in the office. But then I realized really that there is a big difference when it comes to men and women in the office. That's one thing. And then I was like, okay, now that I'm in a supervisory, that you could really see a great pool of difference when it comes to how the women are thinking and the men are also working. But
Mhm.
I have a lot of men also that are in the office that I've worked with that are also very helpful. But you could really see that there are also some primitive thinking when it comes to how the women are working. Like they should be staying at home, like all those things that I've seen and I've heard in the office. But also that's not the reason actually that I resigned in the office, that I quit the job. But the thing is, you can see that how women are being stereotyped and they are putting in women into the box, and when in fact they don't really know the full potential of what a woman can do, like
Exactly.
really.
Yeah, exactly. And when we talk about equality, we're not saying that it should only be women at a workplace. Like that's not what
That's
we're not
true, that's
saying that we
true.
don't want any men. That's not what we're saying. Like it's just unfair that there's what 52% of the world population that are women, and that
Mm,
it happens to be that a lot of male dominated industries that it's what only like 10-20% of women that work in those industries. Like how is that fair? How is that an equal? And it's not to say like women can create too, they can make movies. Like why should they not be allowed? Is it because they can be pregnant and they're going to miss 1 year of work or whatever?
mm.
Like some places don't want to give pregnancy leave because they think that that's a weakness, but being a woman is so strong. You are able to get out a human out of your body. Like that is
Exactly.
incredibly, that's so empowering, and like
If the people,
women are
if a lot of people can
incredible.
imagine that, I could not even imagine myself giving birth to my son,
Yeah.
and it's a normal delivery. I was like telling myself, I'm done with this. I want to go with a C-section, like
Yeah.
really.
I
I was
get
done.
it.
I'm done. I'm done. I told myself I'm done. I told my husband we have to consult the anesthesiologist and we have to perform the C-section already. But then fortunately, I was like, and then everything pops out, and I was like, oh, what happens? And the doctor was telling me go to the delivery room and all those things. I was like, oh, is my baby coming out? They were like, yes. Why did you not know? So it's a miracle. Like really, you don't know how difficult it is. Like I remember when I had my labor, it was like I guess it was 5 to 6 hours. I am in active
Oh,
labor.
oh
So that's
wow.
why I told, yeah, that's why I told my OB that I need to be on the C-section. I don't want normal delivery anymore.
I get it. I get
Yeah,
it. But
that's
I do.
difficult.
It's incredible, like the power that of women's bodies and the fact that it's so denigrated and they're put into a box, like you were saying, that like, oh, they need to be taking care of their children, so they cannot
Mm,
work. But that is
that's
such a
true.
robotic, back-minded idea. And then afterwards, like they think that the biggest decision a woman's got to do in their day is to paint their nails. Well, that's not how it is. Like that's very very wrong. Like women can make decisions and they have their own minds. They
That's
have a
true.
different way of thinking than men, which both are totally valid, but it's really good to have both different ways. And I've studied psychology as well in university, and women's brains are very different to men's brains. They have
That's
a
true.
very
That's true.
different way of functioning, and having both in the workplace equally is so beneficial to having
That's right.
work efficiency everywhere. There's so much work and studies that prove this. So, well, not why not give the space for that? Like
Mm,
it's so important, and like it's not about meeting quotas. It's not about meeting that 50% mark. It's not just about that. It's about saying like we need to have inclusion on both sides, and
mm.
it's being allies is so important. It's not about weakening men. That's not what we're saying. That's not what women are fighting for. It's about let's bring both of us together and work together to create something amazing. What
Absolutely.
in any industry, it applies
That's
everywhere.
true.
Yeah.
I agree, totally agree with that one, Steph. So I guess we were able to wrap everything out from this conversation. And before we're going to end this, I would like to ask if you have anything to plug or in your social media account. Do you
Yeah.
have anything to invite about?
Of course. Well, if ever you want to follow my journey right now with Miss Galaxy Montreal, so
Yes.
I'll be competing in October for the title of
Mm-hmm.
Miss Galaxy Canada. So you can follow along my journey at Steph Hubert. That is my name on Instagram. And if ever you want to follow along in my critique platforms, talk about movies, talk about TV shows, books, something that really inspired you, that changed your mind, that changed your perspective on something. I always love to communicate with people. So
Mm.
that is La Dame Critique. I know it's in French because my first language is French. So, and I wanted a French name because it was fun and original and something a little bit about myself. So, La Dame Critique. That's what it is, and you can find me through there, and we can communicate and talk about all things entertainment.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, thank you very much, Steph, for this opportunity that and also the time that you're giving me. I know
Oh,
we're able to reach more than an hour, but I'm very very happy that I have had this conversation with you and looking forward for this one to be published soon, so that people will be hearing this and they can also learn a lot from what we were talking about, especially to those people that are also wanting to to join in any pageant and also their perspective when it comes to men and women at the workplace or how they perceive as equality when it comes to men and women. So,
yes, thank you
on.
so much for hosting this podcast, for letting me speak, and for being so open towards my ideas and my mind and who I am. So I really appreciate you for creating the space and having this awesome conversation. I really had fun. Thank you.
This episode reminds us that things can go south sometimes, but we can still make the most out of it. If we share positive things to the world, it will come out to us positive ways as well. This is in bits and pieces. Ginagmay o ginagko. Please don't forget to subscribe this channel and share this episode to your friends.